The horrors of May 24th at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas were nothing new, really. There have been 119 school shootings since 2018. There were 34 in 2021. If statistics hold, there will be even more children shot with guns and killed.
Professor William Janes at California State University, Long Beach researched years of data about shootings and acts of violence and published a book in 2020 called Reducing School Shootings. And he joins us this morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
Thank you for inviting me to discuss this very important topic.
Our producer was just saying to us, and it's true, I didn't think about it, the fact that the title of your book is called Reducing School Shootings instead of Stopping School Shootings is kind of a sad reality, isn't it?
It is. It is. In fact, I even considered that title, but I thought that this was more realistic.
Some have suggested why not train and give teachers handguns? What is your thought of that idea?
Well, I think that would open up the door for all kinds of accidents, even lawsuits, because clearly teachers are not trained to do these things. In addition, we've heard about the teacher shortage that exists in many areas of the United States. I can guarantee that that would create even a greater shortage, because who is going to want to be a teacher if one of the courses you have to take is a mini course on how to defend children with a pistol? It really doesn't make sense. I think many times we do things with knee-jerk reactions when our heart is aching, but the knee-jerk reactions are not always the most intelligent thing to do. And in this case, they're definitely not the most intelligent thing to do.
I think after every shooting, we go through the usual list of what's going to happen with weapons and gun control, treatment for mental illness. What are you saying new in this book that people have not heard before?
Well, this book is based on meta-analyses that I have done. And if your listeners don't know what a meta-analysis is, don't feel badly. You are in the majority. Most people do not know what a meta-analysis is. But what it is you combine all of the studies that have ever been done on a particular topic to determine what the overall numerical research indicates. And in running the meta-analysis, what I discovered is that there are about 6, 7, 8 factors that together, if implemented together simultaneously, can reduce school shootings simultaneously. But what is also significant is none of those factors, as important as they each are, can reduce school shootings alone.
But the things that Robin mentioned, we've been talking about for a decade or more. So what's going to change?
What's going to change is, number one, regarding gun control, we need intelligent gun control. And what I mean by that is that we need gun control that is specifically designed to address school shootings. A lot of the gun control laws address shootings overall, but for example, the most popular aspect of gun control is background checks. But wait a minute, a lot of these shooters are 11 to 18 years of age. They don't have a whole lot of background. That's not going to help us very much. But we also need other factors, according to the meta-analysis. We need character education. Hollywood and the makers of video games need to act more responsibly. And as you mentioned, of course, we need to tend to those with mental illness. We need to also have the family step up and realize that there are actions they can take as well. And it's going to take implementing all these things. So what I've suggested is whoever is president, in this case, it's President Biden, assign a council, much as was done by President Truman, by the way, regarding civil rights, and assign a council experts in this field to design a comprehensive program, because just simply passing a bill or two may have something of an effect, but we need something that is much more comprehensive if we really want to reduce these shootings.
Well, the book is called Reducing School Shootings. William Janes, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.